we go. Hey, welcome to War Whiskey Podcast. My name is Justin Fisher. And today we are interviewing two members of the Arkansas State Paranormal Research Group, Hillary Trickery and her sister Emma, two team members. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Justin. We're thrilled to be here.
Well, I'm very happy to have you guys here. So let's just start off a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into why you do the paranormal research.
Sure. So my name's Hillary Trickey, and I'm one of the founding members of Arkansas State Paranormal. I live in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I've got 3 kids that we just adopted this year, starting my own business. So I'm kind of a mom and a jack of all trades, I guess, do a little bit of everything. This is my little sister, Emma, and she's been a part of the team since she was old enough to join us on investigations.
Nice. Emma, what do you do?
I'm a recent college graduate, and I just started a new job doing tax preparation work. And other than that, I have 2 kids and a husband, and I'm just a full-time mom pretty much. And
so where do you find time to do the paranormal research? That's a pretty big schedule.
Honestly, time is probably like the most difficult part of it all. Honestly.
Really?
But it's really fun for us, and it's a fun outlet. We're a team-based or we're a family-based team.
right.
So it gives us time to spend, together doing something that we all love and really have a passion for. So weekends, long vacations, that sort of thing. We're out there, hitting it. A lot of people don't realize that there's a lot more work than just going out and spending the night in a place, in an abandoned building. There's a lot of preparation and historical research that goes into it, weather data, setting up the equipment, checking out the property, interviewing folks if they live there, or building owners to find out what exactly they're experiencing and that sort of thing, or the history on the property. And then after that evening, we spend a whole night in a property. You've got to go home and you've got to sort through all of this data that you've just collected. So you've got to watch all of that footage, multiple cameras, with a fine-tooth comb, and then go through all of your recordings and pictures and that sort of thing. And then you've got to follow up with those people. And it might take more than one trip on one investigation. We've had several residential cases where we've gone back 3 times just to have our base readings correct, just to make sure we haven't left anything out, to make sure we get good readings on everything, or go back and spend another evening there. Maybe it was quiet, or maybe we, didn't see something, or, we saw something in our footage that we want to go back and check out, or just wanted to have another evening to have something to present itself to us if there was something there. So there is a lot of time that goes into it. So I think time is definitely number one factor in those things, but it's something that we're passionate about. And just like everybody else, if you're passionate about it, you'll make it work.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sorry, I mean, cut you off. So it's just not just like you see on the TV where they just take this EVP reading and like, oh, we got something here. Definitely not that.
Not at all. Like it's on TV for a reason. It's entertainment.
Oh yeah, it's all ratings.
TV shows is they take hours and hours and hours of footage and squeeze it into a 30-minute episode.
Right.
So it's really easy for them to pick and pull every little thing, and in real life it's not like that. So
it's basically they just condense all the sexiness into a half-hour block. Where in reality, it's not that sexy at all. It's just
exactly
8 hours. 8 hours of sitting in the dark, basically.
Exactly.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, yes. You might have a few moments of what was that? You've got to get up. You've got to investigate, or you've got, something's always going to happen. You're going to have equipment malfunction. You're going to have, whether it's a power outage or a raccoon in the rafters or whatever is happening. Something's going on. But for the most part, if you were to actually shoot a reality show, it would be 8 hours of sitting in the dark being quiet. Yeah.
Just sitting there with your thoughts. So walk me through the process. So how do you pick a site?
Sure, that's a great question. So we do 2 different investigations. We do some that are more historical buildings, such as Waverly, old tuberculosis hospitals, sanatoriums, that sort of things. Those are just enriched with history. And I think all of us on the team, all of us in our family, we've always been drawn to the history of older buildings. I mean, that's what brought us where we are today. That made us who we are, right? As a society, or these old buildings and the history behind them. So we definitely are drawn to places that are a little more obscure, that have that rich history. And then sometimes we're contacted by, residents in our community or in other communities around Arkansas saying, hey, I've got something going on. I'd love for you to come check it out. So it really just depends. If we've got a big team thing coming up, then we can go out to one of those, more historical sites. We try to keep it as controlled as possible. So we like to keep it to, just 2 to 3 members on those residential sites. And so after we pick a location, then we do tons and tons and tons of research on that. We're looking at the history of the property, what the experiences are. We interview everybody that is a part of that. If they live there, we're interviewing them, or if they own it, or if they've lived there before, we even try to go back to prior owners to see if they've ever experienced anything. It's really just important for us to get an overall understanding of what's happening and what has happened there. And how the building is built. Then we look at weather factors. What is the weather like for that night? Everything is planned in advance. Our equipment is checked and rechecked. And then we go out to the site, check the perimeter, check the house, make sure that no one could be hiding in there on us. We do, again, try to keep it as controlled as possible. So we know who's coming in with us, and because it's family, we trust everybody that we're going in with. Those people, I've known all my life, so I know they've got my back, and I trust what they say they're experiencing is true. And if we're recording something, I know that that's Emma's cough or sigh or whatever when we're going through stuff. I know what to pick up on, and I know who that belongs to. So there's a lot more than just grabbing your flashlight and going to a site.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to take too many people with you on investigations too. It just, the more people you have, the less you are able to control the environment around you. So,
So I looked at your Facebook page and I saw an average of probably about 4 people per site, looks like. Does that seem about right?
Just depends on the size of the building.
So the site plays a lot part with it. So from the time you pick a site to the time you go into it, what's usually that timeline? You talking about months, weeks?
Weeks, I would say.
Yeah, especially for residential cases. Cases, you normally try to get in a little sooner. Other cases, it just kind of depends on what the team has got going on and when you can schedule to all meet up and make a trip.
So we did our research. We picked a site. We did our research. Now we're moving up to the start date. So equipment-wise, what are you bringing with you?
Sure. So we have to go through everything. We've got bags that are pretty much ready to go, but we're taking a DVR system that has multiple cameras and night vision on those cameras and audio as well. We're taking voice recorders, EMF detectors, dowsing rods. We're taking just our regular DSLR cameras so that we can capture as much as possible. Of course, flashlights, lots of extension cords, lots of backup batteries. Depending on the size of the building, we may or may not take walkie-talkies just to keep in touch with each other so that we always know where each other are for safety reasons and for control reasons for the equipment. And we've taken simple things like we've taken marbles to Waverly just to kind of see if we can get any interaction with physical things.
Especially when it's situations where there's been claims of children that are there. A lot of times they'll often play with marbles and things like that. So
Really? And this is and so is there certain objects that you can almost, so basically you're going to rule out all the scientific side of it, like all the common, there's a window open, there's a door open that makes this noise, there's an animal, and then you're going to get into the spiritual side of it, or the paranormal side of it. Is there certain objects that entice a certain response? You said children and marbles, right? And we'll get I remember you told me that story yesterday, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But is there any other objects that you can talk about that entice something? I've seen the whole, what they do in the shows. They try and antagonize the the spirits or whatever,
We really try not to antagonize as much as possible,
Right.
because we don't know what's out there, right? If you believe in good spirits, you're going to have to believe in bad spirits too. That's the yin and the yang of it. And so I think it really just depends on what we bring. It goes back to the history and the research we've done. If I know that there's people have been seeing a spirit of a little boy, then I'm going to take something that he's more likely to play with, like maybe marbles, or if it's a girl, I might take a little doll. We've done that, or a stuffed animal, that sort of thing. Or we've even played music from the era that the building was built, or a tragic event happened, or something like that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so it really just goes back to the history of the building and what people are experiencing.
Do you go in there with the mind that you're skeptical, or do you go in there with the belief that there is something here?
I mean, you definitely have to go in with the mindset that everything that you may hear could possibly have another environmental cause for it.
Okay.
But you definitely go in looking for logical reasons something could be happening. You go in with an open mind. Me personally, I can speak what I personally believe in. Do I believe that there are unknown things out there? Yes. Do I believe in the paranormal? Yes. But do I believe every place that we go to is haunted? No, absolutely not. You have to go in with an open mind, but think logically. And that also affects how you react to certain situations. So if I go in and I'm thinking, oh, this place, they said it was haunted, definitely haunted. And if I go in there, every little noise that occurs, I'm going to be freaking out. I'm going to be hypersensitive to that. You can't do that because then you're diluting all of the evidence that you're collecting.
Right. I myself have done two of them. I've done the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs.
Right. Yes.
Kind of disappointment. They kind of hype it up to be like, like Ghostbusters 4. Like, I'm all excited, and you take a picture and it was like an orb. They're like, oh, it's all around you. I'm like, is it? Or is it just the reflection from the light? Then I did one I was telling you yesterday about the MacArthur Museum here in Little Rock, and that one was pretty intense there. That's a pretty, because of the historical value with that area and everything like that. So
that's the crazy thing is, you can go, we've gone to Waverly 3 or 4 times in Kentucky. That place is known for its experiences and its hauntings. And we've gone and absolutely nothing happened. And then we've gone and had the weirdest experiences of our lives and caught, the best EMFs and the best, recordings and that we've ever gotten. And so it's really interesting on what draws them out or what's going on. But you can have places like that. You can have places that are letdowns, that people hype it up and that sort of thing, and they're kind of over dramatized. And then you can have places that you never would have thought. You're walking in going, oh no, there's no way. And something happens.
What's the creepiest, spookiest experience that had you like, oh my goodness, like do you ever have experiences just like you're like, okay, this is intense?
Oh, for sure. I know for me, definitely Waverly. I go back there. That was one of the first investigations that I was ever a part of. It's just an amazing building with a rich history. I'll speak to a couple of different instances there because it was the same night. So this night we were walking through the building. I'm up on the 4th floor. I'm naturally just a very bubbly, outgoing personality. It takes a lot to get to me. We go up to the 4th floor, which is a floor that allegedly a nurse had committed suicide. So, and of course we know this because we've done, all of this research and that sort of thing. And then we walk in and just immediately on the 4th floor, I'm feeling just so overwhelmed with this distressing feeling, which again, it sounds a little weird to someone that doesn't know me, but that's not me. Like, things don't affect me in that way. And so it got so bad though. The more we were in that floor, the worse I was feeling. I couldn't breathe. I was shaky. It's so much that I had to sit down and just had really, really negative thoughts start entering into myself. And so my mom, Amy, who is the founder, leader of our team, she said, we've got to get her out of here. Some energy is affecting her negatively. And so it was amazing because as soon as we stepped into the stairwell, as soon as we were off of that floor, I immediately went to feeling fine. It just washed away from me. And I think for me, I've had doors slammed in my face. That same night we were throwing marbles and one whizzed past Amy in the hallway, and there's no way nobody else was on the floor. Our whole team was right there together in a stairwell. She peeked her head out because we heard a noise, and one just flew past. Like, you could hear the sound of it whizzing past her. It was going so
Crazy.
fast. I don't mean rolling on the floor. It was in the air, rolling past her head. And so that was all in one night, and we've had some really crazy experiences. But I think just knowing something could overtake me and affect me emotionally and mentally and physically all within just a few minutes of walking on a floor, it really made me feel vulnerable, and that really creeped me out.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. What about you, Emma?
I would say one of my creepiest experiences, we were at this abandoned tuberculosis hospital in Boonville, and I was actually on the 3rd floor of the hospital by myself. And I was watching the monitors, the DVR monitors, and the rest of the team, it was maybe around 4 a.m. And the rest of the team was just like quietly going to the building, like kind of collecting recorders and stuff, making sure equipment was up because we were actually wrapping up to get ready to go home. And I was sitting on this floor in the middle of the hallway by myself. And all of a sudden I heard like just the loudest bang that sounded like a metal slammed door, a door like being slammed, or like a metal file cabinet being slammed, like something very noticeable, not something that could have been, just brushed off as something else. And it was really, the creepiest part about it was the fact that I was by myself and that I knew that I was the only one on this entire floor. And so, of course, the team members come back and I'm like, were you guys moving furniture? Like, were you making loud noises? And they were like, no, we're being, really quiet. And I could see on the DVR system that they were on a completely different floor than I was. So it was just that fact of knowing that whatever that was that made that noise was literally right down the hall for me.
Wow, that's pretty crazy too. What separates the professionals from the amateurs?
I think a lot of teams nowadays, especially with everyone has a cell phone in their hand, a lot of people just go into places just wanting to get a thrill out of it. And they might take some video or take some recordings on their cell phone, but they don't really take the proper equipment and actually take the time to do the research and to go through all your data that you collect. They're just kind of more in it for a thrill instead of actually doing the work that it takes.
Yeah, we don't like to advertise we're a professional ghost hunting team. That's not, we're researchers that happen to research paranormal events. You can't get a degree in ghost hunting. There's not a test that you have to take. I can have just as much of a valid experience with a flashlight in the middle of an abandoned building than I can with all of this, equipment. I think it depends on, like Emma said, like what you're getting out of it. If you're going in with the mindset of I'm gonna see a ghost tonight and it's gonna be fun and I'm in it for the thrill, then it's probably a hobby and you may be an amateur. I don't like to label people, but the thing is, are you going to take the time to do all of this deep research and walk into a building and say, okay, what else could it be? Let me check the pipes. Let me, is there asbestos? Is there some environmental component to why these experiences are happening? Doors slam. Well, it's an outside door. Is it windy that night? It can be really simple, we've heard papers shuffling. Well, it's an abandoned building and there's mice. So I think it just depends on what your mindset is and how much work you're willing to put into it. We try to be professional. We try to give respect to everyone that we come across and be respectful to the field. So I think that just your mindset and that sort of thing and what you're going to get out of it really is the difference.
Right. A couple more questions before we wrap it up. Is there any location that you know of that you're like, now we're not going there? That just like from the historical, like background of it, or you just have this feeling like we do not need to be in there?
Honestly, I think our team's pretty much up for any challenge.
Yeah.
So we're down with it. We feel really solid in our faith. We feel really solid in what we do and that sort of thing, that we're not rattled easily.
Yeah. And how you go in there does play a part. I mean, like
Right.
Hillary mentioned earlier, you don't want to go into any place and try to provoke something that you may not be able to handle.
Right.
Right, you don't want to go to like gangbusters and upset something.
No, we try to be really respectful of the history and of
Right.
these entities and that sort of thing. I mean, we're coming into their moment, we're coming into their place, and you don't go in there and poke the bear.
As you explore these areas, are you keeping an archive? So say if
Yeah.
I wanted to like go on your Facebook page, can I research, the places where you've been, like the Turbo in Boonville, places like that? Does it have all the data in there that you've collected from it?
We haven't had really the equipment to archive all of our stuff, like all of our videos, because there's just hours and hours and hours. You can definitely see pictures, and we definitely post every time we go out there. But our means behind this is really just to answer questions and to collect more evidence. It's not really to make ourselves look any certain way or for the publicity of that. We definitely do keep all of our recordings, audio and video and pictures for that matter. They're just in a safe and physical form versus being uploaded.
Right. One more question. What do you say to the critics of people who are like, oh, you're ghost hunters, blah, 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 blah?
Yeah, I say bring it on. Like, I am too. Like, it just depends on the location. I know for me and my experiences, they're very real. And I think everybody on the team feels like that. Their experiences are very real to them, but they're also very personal. And until you've experienced that and had that personal connection with an entity or something of the paranormal, then it's not going to be real to you.
Right.
I'm not out to convince people that ghosts are real. I mean, they'll have to come out on the hunt and see that for themselves.
It's definitely a very personal experience. We've seen people, we even have a member of our own team that was a very big skeptic in the beginning, very big critic. And, one experience completely changed his whole mindset on it. So it's just one of those things, very, very personal.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in it or not, I think everyone should give it a try and see for themselves if they have a personal experience with it.
And what I love about when we do residential cases too, residentials can be a little scary just because you're walking into someone's home, and because it's such a personal experience, you don't want to overstep. You don't want to, overshadow what they've experienced and that sort of thing, or diminish that in any way. We just want to collect evidence and present it how it is, whichever way it falls. However, we had some cases where we really felt like we helped these people. We had one recently this year, went out 3-4 times to this place, was able to collect some evidence, had some really crazy experiences, presented that to the homeowner. And they were really, really frightened in their own home. And again, we can just present the evidence. We don't claim that we get rid of ghosts. We're not ghostbusters. But because we came out and because he saw how everything was presented, because we walked him through that, and we do keep in contact with most of those that we do residential cases. We just talked to him today, and he said, you know what, I'm conducting my own investigation somewhere else, and things are still happening at home, but because of you guys, we have more confidence at home to deal with that we're not going to be bullied in our own home, and we're not going to let these things scare us. We're just going to live and coexist with this.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's all the time we have for this interview. I'm very thankful that you guys came on the show. I think you give a lot of credibility to what your profession and what you do. It's clearly that you take it very seriously. And then that's really what I knew. That's why when I saw the article and I looked at your Facebook page, Arkansas State Paranormal, I saw the professionalism, and clearly after we talked on the phone yesterday, how much dedication and time you put into it.
Well, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate all that you do, and thank you for your service for our country. We just really appreciate it.
Thank you. And that is enough for this episode. Justin Fisher signing off.